Trump voters unaware of his criminal indictments. Since 1968, Republicans have branded themselves the party of law and order. They have always, since 1968, been about giving more power to the cops and locking up criminals. And while the Republicans still love the police and insist the solution to crime is more prisons, the current standard bearer of their party has 91 criminal indictments. He's just wrapping up a civil fraud trial, and he just got hit with an $83.3 million judgment for defaming the woman he raped. And the rest of the year, Donald Trump will be busy getting tried in 4 separate criminal courtrooms. Republican leaders right now are tying themselves in knots, blaming the prosecutors, blaming the juries, the judges, the media, and of course the FBI, the CIA, and the deep dark state, because there's no way Donald Trump could ever be guilty. Republicans, the leadership, says it's a massive conspiracy against the man who literally threatens the wives and families of these very same politicians when they don't lie for him. But what about the voters? You can't threaten the voters. You can't intimidate the voters. On election day, you can have poll monitors there intimidating people of color from voting. But, there's going to be mail-in ballot. You really can't intimidate voters, especially Trump voters. If they're for law and order, Trump voters, and they love the cops, wouldn't they be upset that Donald Trump is being tried in all these courtrooms? I mean, you can't have every district attorney be in on the conspiracy. Well, it turns out they don't know. They don't know. They don't know anything. That's why they're voting for Trump. They don't know. They don't know anything about the 91 criminal indictments. Philip Bump, writing in the Washington Post this morning, says, people like you and me, my listeners, we suffer from the vanity of assuming that Trump supporters care about the same things we do. In other words, one could argue that we're a bit narcissistic to automatically assume MAGA Republicans would care about the rule of law, democracy, justice, or fairness. They don't. So they aren't following any of Trump's legal travails, because to them, it's fake news. Bump over at the Washington Post writes about a new YouGov poll that shows only 25% of Republicans were aware of the New York State civil fraud trial where Trump was found guilty of ripping off banks and insurers. 40% know about next month's criminal trial surrounding the hush money paid to porn star Stormy Daniels. Why do they know about this? Because Stormy Daniels is a porn star. They know about that. But they don't follow Trump's legal woes. Why don't they follow them? Well, they're hard to keep track of. It's confusing. It's the Green Bay sweep. He's flooded the zone with so many criminal trials, nobody can pay attention to it. It's confusing. It requires concentration and something Trump voters lack: focus. So obviously, Republicans, especially Trump supporters, are going to ignore Trump's legal grief and focus on this imaginary crisis that he invented at the border. Now, some people keep saying to me, why do you insist that it's an imaginary crisis? It is imaginary. There is no crisis. All you need to do is hire more immigration judges to process these people. That's all it is. Now, back to this YouGov poll. Democrats are not so great either. YouGov asked a question of voters kind of to test what they know about the news. This was the test question. Quote, to your knowledge, has Donald Trump been indicted for drug trafficking? So they ask these questions like, to your knowledge, has Donald Trump been indicted for paying hush money to Stormy Daniels? To your knowledge, has Donald Trump been indicted for inflating the value of his real estate to secure better loans? These are part of the questions to test what voters were paying attention to and what they knew. And one of the trick questions, it wasn't a trick question, it was, to your knowledge, has Donald Trump been indicted for drug trafficking? 17% of Democrats said yes. Trump has been indicted for being a drug kingpin. And only 6% of Republicans thought Donald Trump had been indicted for drug trafficking. Democrats have to do better. That's really bad that 17% of my people thought Donald Trump had been indicted for being a drug kingpin. You know, it's hard to justify holding the election in November if even Democrats aren't paying attention. And finally, this headline from Business Insider: Florida anger management therapist accused of murder of a homeless man. Why? Because Florida. That's Florida.
It's time right now for the David Feldman Show.